All right. Let's do it. Hey now, another episode of All In with Dylan Fearon. Welcome back, everybody. Really, really glad to have you here for another episode. You know, as I've said in previous episodes, I got a new car. Got a new car. Love it. It's funny with a new car, though. I've been going to the grocery store. I've been going running my errands. I've been trying to keep this thing as far away from other cars as possible. Now, I was driving the same car for about seven and a half years. Ford Escape, same car for 7 years. And, you know, there's a little scratch on it. You don't care after that many years. You know, you got to park the car in a tight little spot, tight little space. It is what it is. You know, hopefully no one hits their door on my door. When you have a new car, though, there's this sense of anxiety, like you just put the money down, you've got maybe a larger car payment, you've looked for a week or so at what car you want, you finally get the paperwork done, everything's fine, you get the keys from the salesman, and you're thinking, oh, this is it. I can take the car off the lot now. But there's almost this like nervousness, like I better not crash. Nothing better happen to this car early on after this whole process. So you park it far away, and I mean, it is what it is. Things are going to happen to this car, to any car. But there's that sense of anxiety or nervousness when you first get it. You're like, no one ruin this moment for me. No one ruin this for me. And you go to the grocery store, and let's be honest, a lot of people leave their carts out. So they either leave it in a space, they leave it near a space, and it's windy and it's cold, and the car could move and it could hit my door. And you're thinking about all these things when you get a new car. That first ride when you leave the lot and you're going on the highway, you're like, well, this is it, But speaking of which, the cart debate. People people leaving their carts and they don't put it in that little area. They just leave it in their spot. They leave it wherever they want. Now, it's funny. I actually know a couple people who say, well, it's their job. You know, it's someone's got a job to put these carts away. No. It's their jobs to put it from that middle area where they all go, the big hub, back into the store. It's not their job to just go around this gigantic Walmart parking lot and to gather all the carts up. That's not right. I've had people actually say, no. It keeps people employed. It's their job to go around. No, I don't think so. I can't stand that. And you ever looking for a spot and it's packed, it's a Sunday, everyone's doing their food shopping, you're looking for a spot and you think you've got one and then there's a cart in it. Can't stand that. Can't stand when people do that. And luckily, there's an account that I follow called the Cartnarks that calls this stuff out. Cartnarks. These guys are great. They go all around the country. I don't know how they pick where they're going to go, but they go all around the country and they sort of call people out on camera when they see people leave their carts in spots or where they shouldn't be. And it gets pretty tense. I mean, some of them are funny interactions where people are like, oh, my bad, man, I'll go get it. Some people get very angry. Very angry. Why are you filming me? It's someone's job. Someone else can take care of it. I'm in a rush. It can get a little tense. They tell them, get a life. Do something else with your life. Why are you worried about me in this cart? But it can get extremely tense and almost violent to a point where these guys probably carry around pepper spray and all that because they don't let it go. Even if someone gets in their car and is like, I'm not putting the cart away, these guys, the Cartnarks, they'll have like these stickers or bumper stickers or whatever, and they'll just put it on the person's car. I forget what it says, probably something about, I don't put my cart back. And that leads to, then once you touch their car, now you're getting into this, something bad could happen. Cops can get called. Check them out on YouTube. I'm sure they're on Instagram and TikTok, the Cartnarks. Some of these interactions with people who leave their carts in the wrong places, some of these interactions are hilarious. But I firmly believe you got to put the cart back. And I do every time because I always am thinking, what if the Cartnarks are here? I cannot end up on the Cartnarks. We got a snowstorm coming. Got a snowstorm coming. And where I am in Connecticut, we're thinking 12 inches, maybe even more, 15, 18 parts of Connecticut, even seeing a foot and a half of snow. So, perfect time. Listen to a podcast. And again, this wire, by the way, if you're watching this wire just continues to be on. We got to do something about that in the Bridgeport Library. Got to do something about that. Make a couple calls. But perfect time to listen to a podcast. And luckily, a lot of great things have happened in the last week or so. I mean, the last episode I came into, someone told me Happy New Year on January 9th. Someone got me sick, feeling a lot better. Thank you very much. Hopefully, all the prep is done. You can just stay inside, listen to this, watch some football, hang out, and just watch the snow from the inside of your house. Another great thing that's happened, the Mets making some moves. Obviously, if you know me, diehard Mets fan, huge Mets guy, was really disappointed with how last season went. Epic collapse, horrific collapse, terrible, tumultuous, toxic clubhouse, according to some reports. A lot of people will be happy about that, non-Mets fans. I'm talking to the Phillies fans out there, the Yankees fans, the Braves fans. They love this. Can't get enough of it. And then all of a sudden we're thinking, okay, horrific collapse, but the Mets still have a really good core of talented players. Just got to tweak a couple things, bring in a couple strong free agents, maybe make a trade, get some better starting pitching. But the core is all right. All of a sudden, offseason starts. They let Pete Alonso walk to the Baltimore Orioles. Edwin Diaz doesn't want to stay with the Mets. He goes to the Dodgers. The Mets trade Brandon Nimmo to the Texas Rangers. They trade Jeff McNeil to the Athletics. And all of a sudden, you're thinking, wow, this core that took the Mets to the NLCS and was a big part of that in 2024 is gone after the horrific collapse last season. Now, the offseason is long, okay? The offseason is long, so you can't get too carried away with what's going on in December. Okay, so January, February, then all of a sudden, okay, spring training starts. Now this is what your team's going to look like. But can't get carried away early on in an offseason, whether that's positive or negative. And it was very negative early on for the Mets. The fans did not like the fact that they had lost out on Edwin Diaz, keeping him best closer in baseball, arguably. They, of course, didn't love losing fan favorite Pete Alonso. So all of a sudden you're thinking, this is going to be rough. This is going to be a rough season, potentially. Then David Stearns, general manager, president of baseball operations, steps in, starts making some moves. Okay? Starts making some moves. The Mets acquired Marcus Semien, a talented defensive infielder and potentially very good hitter on his day. Last couple of seasons have been tough for him, but they acquired Marcus Semien in the Brandon Nimmo trade. They signed a couple of guys who were on the Yankees last season, relievers Devin Williams and Luke Weaver, who, again, very talented on their day, struggled at times, but could be very good pitchers in Queens. Very good pitchers in Queens. The Mets get Jorge Polanco, strong hitter on the Seattle Mariners last year. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, the team's starting to come together. And then we find out the Mets sign Bo Bichette. Very talented player from the Toronto Blue Jays, hit over 300 last year, which is hard to come by in baseball these days, hitting over 300. They get Bo Bichette on a 3-year, $126 million deal. A lot of money. A lot of money. $42 million a year for this player, Bo Bichette, but he's a great player. What made this even better, was that it comes out right after the reports come out that the Mets are signing Bichette, that it was the Phillies that were nearly at the finish line to sign him on a 7-year, I think it was $200 million deal. That the Phillies were right there. And at the 11th hour, the Mets swept in, got him on a shorter deal, but more money per year. And it just makes it that much sweeter as a Mets fan when you know that you took someone from the Phillies. And honestly, it was huge because if the Phillies had signed him, they would have looked much better. Instead, the Mets steal him from Philly. And that's going to be interesting throughout the season when the Mets play the Phillies, how Bichette plays, how the fans treat him, which we know the Phillies fans won't treat the Mets players well at all. But looking at how they treat Bichette, that'll be interesting. So now the team's really coming together, and you think, okay, that's a great move. We'll see what happens over the next few days. And what do you know? The Mets make a trade for Freddie Peralta, the ace of the Milwaukee Brewers, to be the new ace of the New York Mets. And look, the Mets had to get rid of a couple top prospects, Brandon Sproat, Jet Williams, guys you thought were the future. But the Mets fans want to win now. Can't be waiting for Jet Williams to come out at AAA and start playing well in the majors. Can't wait for Brandon Sproat to continue his development. They got to win now. And the Mets luckily had a plethora of prospects that they can use in the offseason for as trade pieces. As trade pieces. And so they pull the trigger. Now all of a sudden, you're thinking, looking at the roster, this might be a better team than the group last year. This could actually be a better group than the team that had Alonso and Diaz and Nimmo. That's how it's starting to feel. They also acquired Luis Robert or Luis Robert. It's a little debate on how they pronounce the name. Is it Luis Robert or Luis Robert? I hear both ways. From the Chicago White Sox. Great defensive midfielder who can also hit. Again, struggled recently. Kind of like Simeon, but really good defensively. And the Mets had to fix up some of their defensive issues from last season. And that was apparent. That was absolutely apparent, especially on the right side of the infield and the corner outfield. I mean, obviously, Soto is going to play right field. He is what he is out there. But left field's got to improve. Center field certainly has now improved. Second base has greatly improved. First base, we hope, ends up improving. Third base with Bichette. We assume Bichette's going to play third. So all of a sudden, this team has really come together. Now, still some work to do. Got to fix up left field. The starting rotation seems to be what it is at this point with Peralta and Nolan McLean and David Peterson, Kodai Senga, Sean Manaea, Clay Holmes. That seems to be the six that they're going to play around with this season. Bullpen, still think there's some room for the bullpen to improve. Really do. Really do. Devin Williams, Luke Weaver at the back end of that pen, AJ Minter, Brooks Raley. Some good pitching. Some good pitching. But I do think they could get one more arm in there. Could get one really strong arm in there to go with those guys. But this is how the offseason ebbs and flows, goes up and down, up and down. You think the team is going to be brutal? And bang, 1 week, you can bring in 3 players to totally change the dynamic of your roster and the outlook of the season. Totally change the outlook of the season. So I'm thrilled about that. I'm absolutely thrilled about that. Yeah, have the Mets missed out on a couple free agents that we would have liked to have gotten? Kyle Tucker, sure. Maybe a couple of trades. Some guys that would have beefed up the bullpen or beefed up the rotation even more that they didn't get via trade. Sure. Not going to get every guy. Not going to get every guy. Don't forget the Mets got Juan Soto last year. So it's a couple years in a row they've gotten some top free agents, made some big moves, trying to improve. The Pete Alonso move still hurts. You wish that they would have kept Pete, but you can't keep everybody. Can't keep everybody. So outlook's looking good. And I had said to myself, I am not going to a game until I see this roster improve. I'm not going to spend my money and travel and take the train to the game and then the subway and this and that. I'm not spending that kind of money. They shot up the ticket prices. Okay, you get Juan Soto, you shoot up the ticket prices, thinking there's going to be a winner, and then there's a horrific collapse. Well, I'm not spending. I said to myself, I'm not spending a dime on this team until they improve the roster, and now they have. And I think a lot of Mets fans feel the same way. Look, you got to be loyal to the team, but when you watch every single game last season, you attend a couple games throughout the season, you go in bad weather, you go in the cold, you go and support these guys who gave you a magical end to the season 2 years ago, and you get Juan Soto, you think this is going to be it. We are going to win the World Series this year. You don't even make the playoffs. Not even make the playoffs, which now with the wild card teams and everything, to not make the playoffs is atrocious. It's atrocious with the team that they have, with the payroll they have, with the amount of money they're charging the fans to park and to eat and to drink and to even sit in the seat. To not make the playoffs is atrocious for New York. It just is. So the team's improved. Team's a lot better. And I think they're onto something. Of course, how do you compete with the Los Angeles Dodgers, who just sign every single player they want and no questions asked, no problem whatsoever? Won back-to-back World Series and continue to improve the team. Signed Kyle Tucker, signed Edwin Diaz. You've already won it back-to-back seasons. What more do you need? I don't know how they have enough room on the roster for all these guys. Where are these guys going to play? I don't know how they have enough room for these guys. It's unbelievable. So the Dodgers, of course, going to be unbelievable again next season, or I should say this season. The Yankees will be very good. The Blue Jays will be very good. After that, I mean, the Mets are right there. Mets are right there with the rest of them. And to steal someone from Philly is fantastic. I just think the Mets. I think the Mets are a lot better now. I think you asked me this question a couple weeks ago. I'm thinking they're going to have a horrible season, not going to make the playoffs. It's going to be a disastrous few months, disastrous summer. All of a sudden, looking good. Playoffs at a minimum, and we'll see what happens. You just got to get in. You just got to get a seat at the table, and anything can happen. Problem is, last year, didn't get a seat at the table. So we'll see what happens. Also, Carlos Beltran, all-time Met great, just found out he's going to the Hall of Fame in 2026. And Beltran was a great Met, great center fielder, great hitter, switch hitter. Most of the time seemed to come up big in key moments. I loved watching Carlos Beltran. I had a Carlos Beltran jersey. Favorite number is 15. He was number 15. It's just nice to see him get recognized for the career that he had. You know, he was a 5-tool player. Could hit for power, had the speed, had the defense. Had it all. It's a really, really good player. And the big question is now, he played for a few teams, right? He started off with Kansas City, Houston days, the Mets. He moved on to a couple other teams, St. Louis, San Francisco. I think it was the Yankees as well. What cap is he going to wear when he goes into the Hall of Fame? And I think it's only right that he wears a Mets cap. Now he hasn't said he will. He did say the Mets mean a lot to him, but he hasn't committed yet to what he's going to do. A lot of these players, if they go in and they've had were significant players for a couple of different teams, can just wear a generic cap, generic Hall of Fame cap. But I think a lot of Mets fans were hoping Beltran goes in as a Met. It'd just be great. And then they can retire his number 15, at some point next season would be great as well. So really happy for Carlos. I actually met him. I met Carlos Beltran a few years ago. I was working in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and he, for whatever reason, was visiting a Puerto Rican church nearby on a Sunday. And there wasn't much else going on in the news that day. And I ended up saying to my bosses, I want to go cover this. You have a MLB great in our area. Maybe he'll talk to us. Let's do it. And luckily I was able to do it. It was a weekend, not much going on. Got to go see Carlos at this church. Got to interview him after. Got a picture with him. And I just told him I grew up a Mets fan, that, what he did for the team meant a lot to me. Obviously, there are a couple moments that Mets fans aren't thrilled about that involve Carlos Beltran. 2006 NLCS Game 7. Mets are down 2 runs. Carlos has, I believe it was the bases loaded, and ends up taking a called third strike on a curveball from Adam Wainwright, and the Mets season's over. And that was at Shea Stadium. That was the night that Endy Chavez made the incredible catch, the best catch still to this day that I've ever seen. And I don't think will ever be topped in my mind. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google Endy, E-N-D-Y, Chavez, Endy Chavez catch. And you come and tell me if you've seen a better catch than that. Because you haven't. You haven't. Endy Chavez catch. In the moment, with the circumstances, with what's on the line, Greatest catch I've ever seen. Not going to be top for me. Not going to be top for me. But Beltran taking a call, third strike in Game 7, that was a huge moment in his Mets career. But he's still an all-time great Met. Of course, he was going to be the manager of the New York Mets. But the scandal that involved the Astros, I don't have to get into that whole thing, but the scandal that involved the Astros, it ended up not working out with Carlos being the manager. But congratulations, Carlos. So look, hopefully you enjoyed this sports episode. First couple episodes haven't really been about that, right? The first one was an introduction. Second one was about all the crazy stuff that had happened to me over the course of a week or so. So hopefully you enjoyed a little bit of the sports side. Not going to be every time. Not going to be every time because I like telling just stories in general about what's going on with my life and funny things that I notice or annoying things that I notice. And so hopefully you enjoyed this. We got episode 4 coming up real soon. Hey, look, with the snow, please stay safe. Do what you got to do. Hopefully this is airing Sunday. So hopefully you did what you had to do on Saturday to get ready for this today. So enjoy the snow. Be safe. And I will see you real soon. And you know how we're closing out. There we go. Episode 3. In the books, baby. I'll see you soon. Episode 4 very soon. Thanks, guys. Take care.